sir.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Remember when Pajamas Boy, mayor of Mogadishu, Minnesota, said this last week in the direction of ICE?
There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
And that sort of moral indignation impressed one Chicago mayor, BLM Brandon.
Mayor Johnson, President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to send federal troops to Minneapolis. Have you spoken with the mayor of Minneapolis and offered assistance? And does this give you concern that he might try to do something similar here in Chicago?
I have spoken with Mayor Frey, and really commend his strength and his moral clarity in this moment.
Strength and moral clarity, those are adjectives I don't think of when I think of Pajamas Boy, or BLM Brandon for that matter. Of course, Walz, as we talked about yesterday, saying, not suggesting, but saying explicitly that ICE is going door to door asking neighbors to point out black and brown people for ICE to disappear. That's essentially what he said, not verbatim, but that's the gist of it. Our friend Bob Woodson, the great Bob Woodson, writing in the Wall Street Journal, the same moral blindness that fuels corruption generally. Poverty doesn't produce moral decay. Deprivation doesn't produce depravity. It never has. We once endured conditions far worse than today without losing our moral compass. During Jim Crow, when racism was written into law, black neighborhoods were safer than today. Elders were respected. Children could walk the streets without fear. Families were intact. Churches were full. And black marriage rates during the Great Depression were higher than for any other group in America. We had less money but more order. Less power but more integrity. Consider the massive pandemic relief fraud in Minneapolis, where $250 million meant to feed hungry children was stolen. Whistleblowers raised alarms early, but every question was deflected with accusations of racism until the money was gone. When accountability dies, predators prosper. When every critique is labeled racist, justice collapses. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Minnesota and big cities around the country. This is Woodson calling on Black America to declare a one-year moratorium on whining about racism. Not because racism has disappeared and not to soothe the sensitivities of white America, but because grievance has become a shield protecting predators within our own communities. And now, seeing this model, other communities like Somalis in Minnesota have adopted the same model because it seems to work. At least for those that are on the beneficiary, that are on the end of the beneficiaries, benefiting from the fraud schemes and so forth. But to his larger commentary is so good, as it always is. I mean, just that again. When every critique is labeled racist, justice collapses. Victimhood, just one more. Victimhood is not a liberation, it is a leash. Racism is real and still exists, but it can't be the only explanation for every failure or the excuse for every crime. A community can't be healed by lies, and it can't be saved by slogans. No child was ever rescued by a hashtag. True empowerment requires moral clarity. It requires the courage to tell the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable, and even when the guilty look like us. Yeah, that's accountability. That's what you don't hear or see from those who talk so much about it. The appearance of accountability. Jacob Fry, Brandon Johnson. For more on the topic, pleased to be joined by our friend Pastor Corey Brooks, senior pastor of New Beginnings Church on the south side of Chicago, founder and CEO of Project Hood. Pastor Brooks, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you as always. Your reaction to Brandon Johnson and Jacob Fry having a moment in the context of what Bob Woodson is saying, most specifically about Black America, but as is always the case with Bob Woodson, the lessons that he provides are colorblind.
Absolutely. I agree with him totally, 100% in his article. At some point, we have to move past the slogans, and we have to have an honest conversation about leadership, about policy, about accountability. I just tweeted yesterday that, when it comes to our mayor, there's always this constant verbiage around the idea of white supremacy and this talk about race all the time. And so I just raised the question, if this white supremacy exists to the extent that he says it does, then who's running Chicago? Because most of Chicago and most of Illinois is ran by Black leadership. We have a Black mayor, we have a Black superintendent, we have a Black school board president, a Cook County board president, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, the Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, and then Nance Holt, the Chicago Fire Commissioner. Judge Evans used to be the chief judge of Cook County, Treasurer Militia Colliers. We used to have the Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Fox. She was in place. I could go on and on. And,
Chris Welch is the Speaker of the House. Right?
Yeah, Chris Welch is the Speaker of the House. At some point, we have to stop all the race baiting and all the grievances and take a look in the mirror and say, okay, let's deal with leadership. Let's deal with the policies and hold people accountable. And I think there are so many of us who feel just the way that our brother just wrote that article feel, and we need to start speaking out more and more.
And you also wrote a piece for Fox I read about Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson is focused on Mowing ICE wherever they are in focus, like they are in Minnesota right now. He obviously commented on the mission to extradite Nicolas Maduro from Caracas to New York to face narco trafficking charges because, the Chicago public school system, a big fan of the school system in Venezuela and Caracas under Maduro. They sent a group of CTU or CPS board members there just a few years ago to sing the praises of Maduro and the great school system there. So he had to rally around his fellow neo-Marxist and Maduro. He's always got somebody to blame, Richard Nixon, or somebody to focus on that is not particularly relevant to the day-to-day lives of Chicagoans.
Yeah, it's real. On his part, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to make sure that he has an enemy to fight, but he's fighting the wrong enemy. Our politicians spend more time talking about Trump and fighting ICE than fixing Illinois and fixing Chicago. We're dealing with murders, poverty is rising, businesses are leaving downtown, schools are broken, taxes keep going up. There seems to be more taxation on the way. Our seniors are being abused. You can't even walk safely downtown. And here you are focusing on Trump and Venezuela. That is the type of leadership that needs to be held accountable.
And we also heard him. We played a bit earlier in the program. He responded to a call when he does the sit downs with the NPR station, Chicago BEZ, and it was about these significant increases in property taxes in majority black neighborhoods on the south and west sides that was been reported on for the last couple of months. 130% increase in Inglewood, 100% increase in West Garfield Park, and so forth. And he basically said, we got to make that's why I want to tax the ultra rich, and we got to make investments in our schools and our libraries and our parks. So it sort of gave it short shrift. I wonder if the Tea Party reaction to of the burning of the property tax bills, the reaction when those property tax bills came out at the end of last year, I wonder if that response is being sustained in those neighborhoods. What do you think?
There are so many people who are upset because they're losing their properties because of these high taxes. What is being done in these impoverished areas is outrageous. But I'm so glad that people are finally starting to wake up and see what's going on, and they're starting to realize that these high taxes and these liberal policies are not beneficial toward our community, and they do not help us to climb out of poverty. They only push us deeper in poverty. And the more we wake up and the more we give voice to it, the more people are going to realize that things are changing from a political perspective in our community. And I think there are a lot of people who are really fed up, and then they're glad that people like myself and Flip Red and others are starting to really keep the pedal down and talk about these issues.
I mean, you think like Chicago Flips Red and the network that you have on the South Side, even as you ambulate around the country. We'll get to that in a second. But do you really feel? I know you always have to stay positive and believe, and there's new people that enter, and sometimes people who were there leave. But you really think it's growing, that it's having an impact, that there is sort of an oil spot event happening where it's radiating out from Project Hood, the center, out into outlying areas?
Absolutely, 100%. I think, everything starts small, but never despise small beginnings. And I think the fact that more and more people are speaking out, that gives us opportunity for the message to be heard. It gives opportunity for more people to be exposed to a different way of thinking. And I think for so long, that idea and those words and those mindsets were pushed to the back. But now we're coming to the front, and we're making noise, and our viewpoints are being heard, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to be derailed. We're not going to operate in fear. We're not going to back down any longer. We're going to continue to push the agenda. We're going to continue to push the message, and we're going to continue to speak out against these policies that are driving our community further in the ground and creating a level of dependency that is only hindering us from going forward.
Okay, so you're walking across the country from New York to L.A., started last year. Where are you at? How's that going? How are your feet?
So my feet are doing pretty good. I got a little problem, but I just keep pushing. I'm really excited. This week we're walking in Montgomery, Alabama, and we're headed towards Selma. And on Monday, we will actually cross the bridge into Selma, the actual bridge that Dr. Martin Luther King crossed. And we have about 1,000 people, hopefully, that are going to be waiting on us in Selma. And we're going to have a big event there outdoors. And so I'm really excited about the walk. This isn't a walk of protest. This is a walk of merit, accountability, family values, the American dream, and helping to continue and further that message. And so I'm excited about what the walk is doing. Of course, we're not financially where we want to be yet. We still have a long way to go, but I believe we're going to make it.
And you're talking about the Edmund Pettus Bridge, right?
Yes, I'm talking about the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're going to be walking across it on Monday.
Are you going to do your impersonation of Hillary Clinton, doing an impersonation of a civil rights era leader at the Edmund Pettus Bridge for entertainment?
No, I definitely won't go that far. I think I'll leave that with her and her crew. But I'm gonna walk across the bridge and enjoy the moment, and not and like I said, it's not a protest and it's not a march, but it's just a continuation of certain values that I would love to see America bring back to the forefront, especially in our community.
She ain't no ways tight. Yeah. Okay. They're cartoon characters, aren't they, Corey? They're just caricatures of themselves. God. Pastor Corey Brooks, Senior Pastor, New Beginnings Church on the South Side, founder and CEO of Project Hood, projecthood.org. If you want to follow Corey on his walk, if you want to support the effort, projecthood.org. Pastor Brooks, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. God bless.
You too. Be safe out there. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.